Okay, this is okay.
And this is not a spring chicken with the election coming up. Well, there are a few, shall we call them falsehoods or myths that go on?
Yeah, like basically they call it, if you were a little kid, you tell your little kid they're fibs.
Ooh.
But
Would a politician fib?
Politicians, okay, if a politician tells you the truth, he's dead.
Well, you know that joke that they always said is, how do you know if a politician's lying to you?
Yeah, they open their mouth. You know, that was it Mark Twain said, the only politician I ever heard that told me the truth was dead and buried 10 years ago.
Well, part of it is they all put a spin on it, so it always depends on what your perspective is compared to their perspective, right?
Yeah.
Or sometimes, well, they may be a little, shall we say, delusional.
Okay, so this is okay.
Oh yes, and this is not a spring chick.
And we're going to talk about 5 falsehoods on this election that are perpetrated by both parties, but unfortunately tend to slant to the left, not to the right. But put it this way, as the president and his party will tell you on their election commercials, we're willing to suspend our negative advertisement because our advertisement is telling the truth and Republicans are all lying, but we'll suspend our advertising if they'll suspend their negative advertising. I love that. We are telling the truth, they're lying. You know what the Republicans are doing?
What?
They're running the speeches by these people, things that they have said, and that's called negative advertising to them.
That's called negative. Or they could say they took it out of context, but they're running what the people said.
Yeah, they're running exactly what they said. You know, like Nancy Pelosi. I mean, our boxer. I worked hard for, you know, for my. Well, no, the military calls everyone a superior rank ma'am. That was a sign of superior rank to a military officer. I mean, one of the Zucker brothers is really jamming that up her, but it's basically not doing her any good, making fun of everybody. Well, that is captain of the police department. No, that is Major General. No, that is Brigadier General. No, that is Vice Admiral. I am an Eagle Scout. I worked hard for this.
Where was that again?
Yeah, it's a commercial we ran all over television. So here's the biggest one. Okay, this is the biggest fabrication of the bunch. The stimulus plan didn't work.
That's the fabrication?
Every Republican got that memo that the stimulus plan didn't work. When the Democrat-controlled Congress passed the stimulus plan, the unemployment rate was 8.2. Today it's 9.6, but it worked, folks. Well, I can tell you this. It wasn't 8.2 when it passed. It was never going to go to 8 when it passed.
And also, that 9.6 number is not exactly a true number because why?
Because the Obama administration changed the rules.
Mm-hmm.
If they changed it to include workers that are not supposed to be in the system. They've also changed it to 7.6% is full-time employment now. That's how they're trying to make it look like it worked. Polls show that only 1/3 of likely voters think a stimulus plan helped the economy, while 2/3 think it was did nothing or caused harm. The word "fell stimulus" is among the top talking points in the Republican-controlled press. That's how you always know that where this material came from.
I know, because it's not a Republican-controlled press. I mean, having a lot of Republicans in the media is like having a lot of Republican attorneys, right?
Okay, there are as many Republican members of the press as there are people that vote Republican in the state of California on a regular basis.
No. Well, actually, there are pockets where it's very conservative, like the Valley. It's, LA and San Francisco are liberal. Why is it the cities tend to be liberal and the outlying areas tend to be conservative?
Yeah, because the people got away from the place, cities, which is why the Democrats all want to force them back into cities. Then you have to depend upon, instead of growing your own plants and food and stuff out in the country, which most people do.
Oh, you mean they're self-sufficient more?
Yeah, they don't like that. But here's if the goal of stimulus was to reverse the worst recession in 75 years by the time of the election, then it was a failure. But the mainstream economists, meaning the people on Obama's, sitting in the White House, who have never worked for a living, believe that the stimulus reversed and helped end the recession months, perhaps years sooner than it would have ended on its own. No.
We're still in it.
Basically, we're still in it, folks. And they all said, basically you got the experts, the guy that got the Nobel Prizes and things like that said, if you'd have did nothing, it would have ended all on its own. and it wouldn't have been any worse. Nothing, and it wouldn't have been any worse. So you said that you spent $1 trillion and you could have spent nothing. So the Congressional Budget Office added to GDP growth and boosted employment by 1.4 to 3.3 million jobs. No, it didn't. Unemployment continually goes up. If you're adding jobs, it doesn't go up. It goes down. But this is Obama math. Yeah.
I was out with somebody the other day, and she was telling me it was 2 blocks. He says, yeah, that's 2 blocks. He says, you're like, you can count like a Democrat. She's like, what? I said, that's not 2 blocks. I said, we're like 7 or 8 blocks away. Yeah. Yeah, we were walking from the car.
Yeah. And they said that the problem was the Democrats set their expectations too high. Well, if they'd have done nothing, it wouldn't have done as bad as it is. That's not setting an expectation too high. Well, if we spend this amount of money, it's not going to do this. But if we spend nothing, it's going to do this. Well, it went beyond what they would have said. So that's not setting expectations high. That's a person doing books that basically is a pencil pusher that tells you if you do nothing, it's not going to get any worse than what it is now. Except it's done. It's the same thing as the mortgage crisis. If you let the mortgage crisis end, it's over with. The people that shouldn't have owned the homes would be out of them. The people that can afford to get the homes would be in them.
Oh, imagine that.
But Obama wants to keep it going as a political thing. So Democrats, the reason the economy still stinks is that we endured the most violent recession plus a financial panic, and thoroughly trashed economy doesn't heal on a conventional political timetable. Well, it would have. If you had done nothing, it would have. It would be over if you had done nothing. Countries that did nothing are profitable again. The people that just let it happen. The countries that have pumped ungodly amounts of stimulus have all got problems. They're changing governments. They're basically broke. They tried throwing money at the problem, and it did not work. Yeah, so...
But isn't that theory?
I know. When George W. Bush took office, the Republicans controlled the Congress. The budget was essentially balanced. The total national defect was 5.8 trillion. Over that, basically, what happened was Bush increased the deficit by the time he left office by 500 billion.
Yeah.
That was with 2 wars going on and rebuilding after Katrina and rebuilding after the trade centers. 500 billion. We're going to try. Obama spent 3.5 trillion to fix a $500 billion problem. If he'd have done, he's right now printing $100 billion a month in funny money to buy our government bonds. If he'd have printed 5 months of funny money and just simply paid off the deficit under Bush, that's $3 trillion less. So, okay, here's a good one. Over the last 2 years of the Bush administration, when Democrats controlled the Congress, the debt rose by 2.9 trillion. So over the 8 years, the debt more than doubled, raising to a total of 6.1 trillion. No, it didn't.
How in the world did they get that math? I have to go back and look at that.
No,
I'm like, this is not...
The debt didn't. Obama has doubled it. Obama has, Democrats have done this. And remember, one thing they did say, the Democrats were in charge, not the Republicans, folks. They were on a spending spree. They caused the economy to go backwards. They threatened the oil companies.
Well, that was the problem with that when they did.
They wanted all this green stuff. They threatened the oil companies.
And if you have short-term memory and don't remember that, remember they talked about adding all those taxes to the oil.
And basically what happened, the price of barrels went up massively. It hit the tipping point where people had, well, I either have to keep my job or keep my house. When they decided to keep the job and not keep the house, they kept the house anyway. They just stopped paying for it. And when the money stopped coming in, it caused a banking crisis. If you'd have let everybody fail, which they do, the airlines fell every other year. Chrysler's fell twice and still in business. If you'd have let them fail, everything would be all right by now. That is a guarantee. That is a total and absolute. If you look at the countries that let everything fail, their countries are solvent and running. China let everything collapse. Then they put the money into rebuilding after the collapse, which is where you should put money. But let's see, Republican Democrats alike are addicted to spending money they don't have. That's the only thing. That's the only thing that's got any validity to truth. Republicans, basically, if you put the Republicans in, they don't tend to stop Obama from spending. We've got a couple of Republican senators that basically, if Obama goes up to Olympia Snow and Susan Collins, I want to waste $1 trillion on butt scratchers. And they said, $1 trillion on butt scratchers? Do you think that's enough money? Well, okay, $1.5 trillion on butt scratchers, and we'll have them made in China. But won't that put people out of work in our country if you make butt scratchers? Well, we'll give the people out of work that I caused it. We'll give them free butt scratchers. Of course, the people that are wealthy are going to have to be subsidized to pay for my butt scratchers.
I know, and if you think that sounds ridiculous, well, guess what's going on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, basically, here's one. Obamacare will cost $1 trillion.
Yeah, right.
This is the Congressional Budget Office says it will estimate the new government costs associated will cost $1.2 trillion, but that figure is actually going to be less because of all the savings that it's going to cost. Well, they've already spent. They think that 3 times they've came back to Congress to get more money because we misestimated the administrative cost.
Well, you know what always happens is, you know, even on all those projects, they develop a budget here, right? Get funded, wait, gets built over here many years later. So costs go up during that time. So that's why projects, even their budget, they what, double, triple what they originally estimated?
And healthcare cost is going up by twice the amount that it would have if Obama would have left everything alone. And the people, well, don't worry, you can get healthcare in the emergency room. Well, they campaigned on the fact that people were having to go to emergency rooms for service.
Yeah.
Now they're saying, well, if you lose your insurance because your bad company can't afford to pay for insurance, then you can go to the emergency room now.
Because wasn't it one of those write-in things for the healthcare companies?
Yeah.
That, oh yeah, they can increase rates, right? Because part of it, we live in a free society, because, oh, they have 4 years until Obamacare was going to take place.
Yeah, but don't worry. All of the figures out there show that Obamacare will not add 1 penny to the debt. Yeah, it's costing people 3 times more than it did yesterday for
But they're not adding it to the debt because they're charging people for it.
But the people can't pay it.
Well, yeah, that is a problem.
Since they can't pay it, it's called adding it to the debt. They can't pay it.
Oh, yeah, that could be a problem.
They just today forbid doctors from being in doctors' hospitals. So they can't expand doctors' hospitals. They can't go into private practice with other doctors now and form their own hospital. They can't do these little, you know, like the surgical
But you can keep your own doctor.
You can keep your own doctor. As long as that doctor works under Obamacare, and basically, we're going to, like I said this morning, you're basically phasing out a system where the leaders of the world come to this country for medical treatment.
I know.
To stand in line with other people like they do in Canada and all the other countries that have Obama-type care, and have to wait for months to get service. We're talking getting teeth pulled takes months in those countries.
Really?
Well, yeah, because you have to have an opening available. I mean, I saw one person in Canada missed her kidney transplant 3 times because, I mean, a really bad thing. Once she was hurt in an automobile accident. Another, she had a kid, and the 3rd time the plane that she was on crashed.
What?
So
my gosh.
She never got her kidney transplant.
Did she die?
No, yeah, she died. But because, you know, in this country, what they would have done, they just simply did the kidney transplant. You know, they'd have done it. Not under Obamacare. That's not. I mean, they're telling you right now, a lot of these procedures that people use for weight reduction won't be allowed under Obamacare.
that lap band.
It won't be allowed under Obamacare. It's an unnecessary expense. So, yeah, that won't reduce. Basically, this is another fallacy. The Obama administration is crushing businesses.
That's a fallacy? Republicans
are harping on the fact that, you know, that the small businesses are wrapped up in the tax thing. Well, the Democrat, well, they shouldn't. They said to get the hell out of, you know, one of the guys said, get your